Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into 5 of the most common myths that we've all heard at some point. Some of these are so widespread we just take them as fact, but today, we're going to bust them wide open. Stick around to find out the real story behind these popular misconceptions. Ever heard that we only use 10% of our brains? Or that cracking your knuckles causes arthritis? What about waiting an hour after eating to swim? We're tackling these myths and more. If you're ready to have your mind blown and learn the truth behind these common misconceptions, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future myth-busting adventures. Alright, let's talk about brains. Specifically the myth that we only use 10% of those wrinkly things in our skulls. You've probably heard this one before, maybe even used it as an excuse for forgetting where you put your keys. This myth is so pervasive, it's practically become a cultural touchstone. Movies like Lucy play on this idea, imagining humans unlocking superhuman abilities by tapping into the supposedly unused 90% of their brains. But, here's the thing, it's complete nonsense. Think about it, our brains are complex organs requiring a significant amount of energy to function. In fact, the brain accounts for about 20% of our resting energy expenditure, even though it only makes up about 2% of our body weight. From an evolutionary standpoint, why would we have such a large, energy-hungry organ if we were only using a tiny fraction of it? Neuroscientists have repeatedly debunked this myth. Brain imaging techniques like fMRI show that virtually all parts of the brain are active, even when we're at rest. Sure, certain areas might be more active than others at any given time, depending on what we're doing, but that doesn't mean the rest of the brain is just sitting there dormant. So where did this 10% myth come from? Well, like many persistent myths, it has murky origins. Some attribute it to misinterpretations of early brain research, where scientists were still trying to understand the functions of different brain regions. One theory points to a statement by psychologist William James, who suggested humans only use a small portion of their mental and physical potential. However, this was more of a philosophical observation about human potential, not a literal statement about brain capacity. Another possible source is the work of early neuroscientists who discovered that only a small percentage of neurons are firing at any given time. However, this doesn't mean the other neurons are useless. The reality is, our brains are incredibly efficient. So the next time you hear someone spout the 10% brain myth, you can confidently tell them they're wrong. Now let's talk about a habit that often gets demonized: knuckle cracking. You know that satisfying popping sound you get when you bend your fingers just right? Many people believe this seemingly harmless habit will lead to gnarled, arthritic hands later in life. But fear not, fellow knuckle crackers, because this myth has been thoroughly debunked. There's no scientific evidence to suggest that cracking your knuckles causes arthritis. It's time to put this old wives' tale to rest. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence against this myth comes from Dr. Donald Unger, a dedicated researcher who took it upon himself to crack the code, literally. For over 60 years, Dr. Unger cracked the knuckles on his left hand at least twice a day, while leaving his right hand uncracked as a control. And the result, after 6 decades of this self-inflicted knuckle-popping experiment? No arthritis in either hand. Dr. Unger's dedication to proving this myth wrong earned him an Ig Nobel Prize, an award that celebrates unusual and humorous scientific achievements. So, what's actually happening when you crack your knuckles? The sound you hear isn't bones grinding against each other, as some might imagine. It's actually the formation of gas bubbles within the synovial fluid, the thick liquid that lubricates our joints. When you stretch or bend your finger, you create a change in pressure within the joint capsule, causing these dissolved gases to rapidly form bubbles. The popping sound is the result of these bubbles collapsing. Now, while cracking your knuckles might not cause arthritis, it's worth noting that it can be annoying to others. That popping sound can be quite grating, especially if it's a frequent habit. So for the sake of social harmony, you might want to keep the knuckle cracking to a minimum. But when it comes to your joint health, you can crack away without fear of developing arthritis. Chapter 3. Wait an hour after eating to swim. Busted. Alright, let's dive into another classic myth that's haunted pool parties and beach vacations for generations. The idea that you absolutely must wait an hour after eating before swimming, lest you risk cramps, drowning, and other watery woes. This myth is so ingrained in our culture, it's practically become a summertime commandment. Parents nervously eye their children after lunchtime, enforcing a strict waiting period before they're allowed back in the water. But is there any truth to this widely held belief? The answer, like a refreshing dip in the pool on a hot day, is a resounding no. There's simply no scientific evidence to support the claim that swimming immediately after eating increases your risk of cramps or drowning. While it's true that digestion does require some blood flow, our bodies are perfectly capable of managing multiple functions at once. Think about it, we don't suddenly become incapable of walking or talking after a meal. Our circulatory system is a marvel of engineering, capable of directing blood flow where it's needed most. So, while your digestive system might be working away at breaking down that delicious burger, your muscles will still receive plenty of oxygenated blood to keep you swimming strong. Even the American Red Cross, an organization dedicated to water safety, dismisses this myth. They state that while some people might experience mild discomfort or a feeling of fullness after eating a large meal, there's no real danger of drowning. If you feel overly full or bloated after eating, it's probably wise to wait a bit before jumping in the water. But if you're feeling good and eager to take a dip, go for it. Chapter 4. Drink 8 glasses of water a day. Busted. Let's talk about hydration, specifically the ubiquitous advice to drink 8 glasses of water a day. This rule has been drilled into our heads since childhood, appearing on motivational posters, in health magazines, and even whispered by well-meaning relatives. But is this magic number truly the key to optimal hydration? Well, not so fast. While staying hydrated is undoubtedly crucial for our health and well-being, the 8 glasses a day rule is an oversimplification of a complex issue. Our individual hydration needs vary greatly depending on factors like age, activity level, climate, and overall health. The truth is, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to hydration. Our bodies are remarkably adept at regulating fluid balance, and we get fluids from more than just plain water. Fruits, vegetables, and other beverages all contribute to our daily fluid intake. The National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine recommends a daily fluid intake of about 3.7 liters, or about 15.5 cups, for men and 2.7 liters, or about 11.5 cups, for women. However, it's important to note that this includes fluids from all sources, not just water. The reality is, our bodies are constantly sending us signals about our hydration levels. Thirst is our natural indicator that we need to replenish fluids. If you're thirsty, drink. It's as simple as that. Pay attention to your body's signals, stay hydrated, and don't stress about hitting an arbitrary number. Chapter 5. Goldfish have a 3-second memory. Busted! Finally, let's address a myth that's plagued our finned friends for far too long. The notion that goldfish have a memory span of a mere 3 seconds. This belief has turned these small, often overlooked creatures into symbols of forgetfulness. But it's time to give goldfish their due credit. Contrary to popular belief, goldfish are far from forgetful. Studies have shown that they can remember things for months, not seconds. They can even be trained to recognize patterns, associate sounds with feeding times, and navigate mazes. Not bad for a creature often relegated to a small bowl in the corner. So, how did this myth of the 3-second memory become so deeply ingrained in our collective consciousness? Like many myths, its origins are unclear, but it likely stems from a misunderstanding of fish intelligence. Goldfish, like other animals, have different types of memory. Short-term memory, which is responsible for holding on to information for brief periods, might indeed be limited in goldfish. However, they also possess long-term memory, which allows them to store and recall information over extended periods. Researchers have conducted numerous experiments demonstrating the impressive memory capabilities of goldfish. For example, one study trained goldfish to associate a certain sound with feeding time. The fish quickly learned to swim to the surface when they heard the sound, even after weeks of not being exposed to the training. Another study found that goldfish could remember the layout of a simple maze for several days. So, the next time you see a goldfish swimming in its bowl, don't dismiss it as a forgetful creature. So there you have it, 5 common myths officially debunked. We've learned that we use way more than 10% of our brains. Cracking your knuckles won't turn you into a human pretzel. Swimming after eating won't send you to a watery grave. 8 glasses of water isn't a magic hydration number. And goldfish deserve more credit for their memory skills. What other common misconceptions have you heard? Let me know in the comments below, and maybe we'll tackle them in a future video. If you enjoyed this myth-busting adventure, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more truth-seeking content, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future uploads. Remember, knowledge is power and the truth is out there. See you in the next video.